Hey guys, welcome back to the Free Life Agents podcast. Once again, today we have a very special guest who's another great friend of mine. I can say, very proudly, this man has come through, faced a lot of difficulties, and has persevered through in a way that a lot of people haven't really seen in this world. And I'm extremely grateful that he is my friend. He is also in the real estate space. He's been a real estate agent in the past. We're going to talk a little bit about what his journey looks like in real estate going on into the future now. But without further ado, welcome my guest Cornelius Camp. Welcome to the show, Cornelius.
Thank you so much, Kobe. I appreciate you having me on and, being one of the first guests to this wonderful podcast that you are launching. So I'm happy. I'm excited to be here. Thanks so much.
Yeah, no, thank you, Cornelius. I know you're super busy. You got a full-time job right now, so you taking the time out of this to do this with us here is I'm super grateful for your time as well. So for those people that don't know you or aren't familiar with your story, because I know you do have quite a bit of a little bit of following on the internet, on social media as well. You've done a couple of different podcasts in the past, but for those people that don't know who you are and your background, would you mind just kind of introducing yourself, how you would, and telling us a little bit more about you and your journey and, what you did in real estate?
Sure, not a problem. I am originally from Covington, Georgia, which is about maybe 20 to 25 minutes east of Atlanta. Um, I'll just go ahead and skip forward, until into my college years. I ended up going to Coastal Carolina my first 2 years, and then I transferred to the University of South Carolina, where I actually ended up graduating with a bachelor's degree in sports management. And then I moved back to Atlanta, and just talking with my old high school counselor, who actually she was my kindergarten teacher, and then I believe my first grade teacher, and then I had her again for eighth grade, and then she was my high school counselor, and now she's my mentor. So she's been in my life pretty much
Wow.
from the get go. Yeah, it's kind of strange. Um, but just talking with her, and she kind of convinced me to go into counseling because I've always wanted to be in education. I just didn't want to be in a classroom. So um, fast forward, I ended up going to getting accepted into grad school at DePaul University in Chicago. I moved there in 2006 and got my graduate degree to become a school counselor in 2009. Around 2012, 13, I started thinking, and my girlfriend and now my wife, we started talking and thinking like, okay, this might be a good time to go ahead and purchase our property because been renting the whole entire time and everything. So we started looking. This was my first experience buying a property, and so the whole experience was new to me, even doing rentals or even looking for a place to rent. I never have went out with an agent and gone to showings and didn't know exactly what to look for, the whole process, financing, getting a loan, all of that stuff. And so I ended up buying a condo, and when I closed, I started thinking to myself like, I was like, this was kind of an interesting process that I had never been through. I said, this might be something that I can get into. I've always been someone that actually will have like two, three jobs. I have my main job, and then I have two or three side hustles or whatever. And so I was actually at that time looking for a side hustle. And I was like, maybe I'll do real estate. So ended up taking my classes, passed the test, and became a real estate agent in 2015. 2015, I also got married in 2015. And so that was kind of funny. I was actually we got married in Puerto Rico. We were in Puerto Rico, and I did my first deal down in Puerto Rico. So that was kind of
Wow.
funny. Yeah, right. So that was pretty cool there. And I was like, oh, yeah, really? I can dig this. Yeah. Um, so yeah, I ended up practicing real estate, and I started out with Century 21 because the salesperson for Century 21. He was the one that actually taught my real estate class. So started out with them, but that didn't work out. So I went to a company called Exit Realty, or Exit Strategy Realty. And I stayed there for about a year, a year and a half maybe. Met a great guy, Danny Lewis. I ended up joining his team for the duration of my real estate career in Chicago. But I didn't stay with Exit Strategy. I ended up going to Fulton Grace after a year and a half, and that's where I'm currently at right now, or actually that's where I stayed in Chicago with Fulton Grace Realty. They're an amazing company, and the reason why I ended up going to them and staying with them because I realized that they had a lot of the things that helped me be a successful agent and actually help my business, go to the next level. So yeah, so that's where I'm at. Right. Well, no, let's stop. Last July, I accepted a school counselor position in a high school. That's always been my full time job. I've always been a counselor since 2009 when I graduated. Um, but I accepted a position at Newton High School down here in Georgia. And so, me, my wife, my son, we're going to move down here. I'm already down here. My son and wife are in Chicago still. We're waiting on our house to be built. And so, I don't want to move them until the house is built and then we can just all settle in. So, hopefully, that'll be done pretty soon. And yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, that's quite a journey, Cornelius, and really
Yep.
for a lot of people listening, I'm sure they can learn a lot from your current journey and what you went through in terms of being a real estate agent part time as a side hustle as well. So,
Right.
one of the things that I really got from that was that you were working with a lot of people who essentially thought, in your opinion, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but they were your mentors, right? Whether if it's your journey through being in school and becoming a counselor or even in real estate, all of those people that you mentioned or as well, you always seeked out a mentor. So for those people listening, whether if they're doing it part-time or they're a newer agent or even if they've been in real estate for a little while, would you mind just kind of elaborating on your experience working with mentors, why you sought out mentors and why they are so important essentially in terms of not just in the real estate business, but obviously in your experience as well with other industries and other specialties as well.
Sure. I'm the type of person to where I firmly believe that you cannot make it through this life and you cannot be successful without a little bit of help, a little bit of guidance. I'm not one to um, want to go through things, and I like getting experience. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that, but if I can get the experience and also have someone to kind of guide me and say, "Hey, look out for this," or you know, this is how it's done, or whatever, it makes a world of difference for me. And that's just the way that I function. My wife is totally opposite. She would just rather go through stuff herself. She doesn't ask for help or anything, and she just rather take her losses as learning experiences. So like I said, for me, and also dealing in real estate, I feel like everyone should come in, and whatever brokerage you're at, you should look for a number one broker in that brokerage and try to maybe shadow that person, do some things for that person, the minuscule stuff like make phone calls, do an open house, go on a couple of showings, shadow them so you can see what it's like to talk to the buyers, what it's like to talk and sell a listing or something like that, what it's like to do at an open house, how do you need to set it up, how do you market the open house, just things like that that you can actually, if you have a mentor, you can see what they're doing and it makes it a lot more easy. You still learning in the process. You still may have some, ups and downs and so forth. But for me, it just makes it a lot easier. And I can actually tell because when I was at Century 21, when I first started, I really didn't have a mentor. I wasn't part of a team or anything like that. But when I moved down to Exit Strategy and I met Danny Lewis and became a part of his team, he immediately got me into, doing open houses, going on showings for him, taking his clients, out for showings when he was out of town, doing co listing opportunities. Okay. So you might not get you might not get a full commission. Let's say you go in a co-listing, but you get that experience, and that experience to me comes a lot quicker if you have a mentor or somebody that is willing to kind of like, hey, I only do listings that are or buyers that are 350,000. So if he gets someone that's 250,000, he might just slide it on to you, and that's excellent.
Yeah.
You really can't beat a free lead for $250,000. So I'm big on mentorship. Yeah, like I said, I just feel like you just can't be successful without having someone show you the ropes.
Exactly, and I would have to agree with that. So when it comes to, when it comes to finding mentors, I'm actually, I don't know if you're the same way, but I'm actually pretty picky when it comes to finding
Hmm.
mentors. Is that something that you're always, you're also picky about, or are you kind of just looking for people and learn from a more of a quantity of mentors than like a specific few mentors that you want to learn from?
I think when I first started, it was more about the quantity, and now it's more about the quality. Like I'm real, kind of picky. My circle of friends has gotten smaller, and it's only a few certain people that I would consider a friend, a mentor, things like that. And so I really look for people, that's gonna help me improve myself, not only as business standpoint, but possibly as a personal standpoint. They're gonna teach me about, how to do business within, integrity, and how to do business the correct way, and not taking this specific deal in real estate because if you're telling the person, the client, that this house is going to sell for a certain amount of money, and because they're invested however much in it, they want to sell it for this amount, and it's not going to sell for that amount, you don't necessarily have to take that. Versus if I had not had that guidance of something like that, then I probably would have taken it or something. So I'm real picky as far as that, and I'm not afraid. Like if I have a mentor and he's helping me grow, I'm learning from him and so forth, and it comes to a point to where like I'm not learning anything else from him, I really have no problem like kind of leaving and going to another brokerage or finding another mentor. I'm a firm believer that people are in your life for a particular reason and for a particular season. And when that season is up, you got to go.
Yeah, love
And
it.
nothing against them. We can still stay in touch, but from that standpoint, you know,
Yeah, no, I think that's something really important that people don't really think about. Like you
hmm
said, not just people are in your life not just for a specific reason, but also for a specific season as well.
right? Yeah,
So when it's time to essentially move on and grow out of it, find new mentors, I think it's really important to actually not necessarily just drop them, but like you said,
right,
move on and find a new mentor as well. So
right.
that's a part of growth, right?
Yep.
Is
Yeah,
that
exactly,
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. So I think something that I really wanted to touch on as well when it comes to kind of your journey and experience in real estate is kind of being a part-time real estate agent, right? Because you said your full-time job is, and that's where your passion is as well as being a school counselor. And
Right.
we're going to get into that a little bit more in a second because I really want
Okay.
to kind of dig more into that story. But being a real estate agent part time and seeing it as a side hustle because a lot of new agents start out part time. So what are some advice that you can give them in terms of how to juggle the two, how to actually take experience from one and apply it to the other as well?
So the biggest key is if you're gonna do part time and have a full time job and everything like that, the biggest key is time management. Like trying to sit down and figure out, okay, if I'm on my full time job, can I make a call at lunchtime? If you have a 15-minute break, can you do something in that 15-minute break? And then, don't be afraid to tell like your clients, whether they're your buyers or whether they're your sellers. Don't be afraid to tell them that you can't do a showing until after 4:35 or whenever you get off work. And that's just the way that it is. You're gonna do two, three, four showings, but it's gonna have to be after 5. Some people that doesn't fly well with, and I've lost some people, because of that particular incident. Um, but other people, they'll respect that have been, you're being honest with them, and then they'll notice also that the times that you do have, whether it be, it might be part time, you're at your 100%. You're digging all in. You're taking 3 and 4 showings a night. You're doing 2 open houses each weekend. So they see stuff like that. So some people accept it and they're good with it. And then some people, they want a full-time agent, and that's totally understandable. I get it. um my advice is that I'm glad I did it full time. I'm sorry, I'm glad I did it part time, because the first year is really rough. I know people that made 10,000 in commission, and I know people that made 100,000 in commission, and it really depends on you and maybe the connections that you might have. Some people can come in, and not this is not to say that, oh, the leads were handed to them, but they might have had someone to look at already before they got their license. Like, for instance, their father or their uncle might have been in real estate, and they had him to shadow, so they went in and they understood what was going on. They already had a social media presence. They're a person that has a lot of connections. So you doing something like that, that person can come in full time and probably flourish. But someone that's just, they don't have. I didn't have any social media before I got real estate, none at all. Um, Doing something like that, or maybe not having a significant amount of savings, something that you can fall back on if you have a bad month or something like that, yeah, I couldn't do anything like that. So that's why I had the full-time job, so that I can still continue to pay my bills, can still continue to provide for my family. But then, the plan is maybe get a become full-time in real estate. But then you have to battle, okay, do you want to do full-time or do you want to do your passion? And my passion is school counseling. I can't let it go. I like working with kids, and so for me right now, being a full-time agent, it just, it's not the right time for me. Maybe later on, but right now it's not the full time. I mean, it's not the right time. So
Right.
yeah. Yeah, and you
Yeah.
definitely don't get me wrong. I actually did a video on my YouTube channel about this. You definitely can be successful as a part-time agent. You just have to put in a lot of work, and like I said, time management is really, really key. Like, you gotta really use up every single second of free time that you have. And have your relaxation, workout, exercise, go on date nights and so forth. But if you're not doing any of that, working, advertising, marketing, doing open houses, doing showings, or whatever it is. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, is that just something that that you've always kind of gravitated towards in terms of, like you were saying earlier as well, when it comes to, you always want to have a side hustle, right? When it comes to not just your doing your full-time job, that's your actual, your actual passion, but also having a side hustle and, filling up those time gaps with doing something productive. Is that just something that you've always kind of gravitated towards, or is that kind of more like out of necessity, or how has that kind of come about?
I've just gravitated towards it. I remember when I got hurt and I lost my track scholarship. So I was just quote unquote regular student. And so I was like, okay, if I don't have my scholarship going because I got hurt, then I got to find some kind of way to pay for this education. And so I ended up getting 3 jobs, while I was in school, and graduated. And I came back down to Georgia and ended up working in the sports management field. And again, I just had another job. Like, I don't know, it just gravitated. It's like you do your full time job, 8 to 5 or 9 to 5, whatever it is. And then it's like, okay, you exercise, but then you kind of just find yourself watching TV and you be like, okay, this is kind of boring. Nothing's on TV. I'm tired of playing video games. And so you just kind of end up trying to do something that, that you like, but it also brings in a second source of income. And I don't know, it's just something that I've always enjoyed doing. Like, I like relaxing, don't get me wrong, but if I can have a personal training job, which what I was doing when I was in grad school, or like real estate or real estate investing, instead of that, and adding that onto my full time job, it's just something I don't know. I've always been like that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good a good trait to have when it comes to, a lot of successful people. They have different hobbies, but they're not wasted hobbies, right? They're actually very productive, right? So a lot of people who are successful, like to play golf, or
Oh,
they like to pick up like a physical exercise as well. So stuff like that, I think people need to kind of think about, because you have your
yeah.
job, right? Some people are full time, running a business or real estate. Some people are doing it, part time, but you have your job, and then you have some downtime as well. Like how to fill that, and how to fill
Right.
that with something productive
Right.
versus kind of wasting your life away, because
Yeah.
you only have one life. We don't have a
Right.
second chance at it, so we want to
Right.
make sure we're
Exactly.
doing something really meaningful.
Yeah.
And something else that you kind of touched on a little bit earlier in our conversation that I I was really interested in exploring more on, is that you said that you didn't even have social media, before you got into real estate, and now you have, essentially you have quite a pretty big, social media following. You're on a really successful real estate agents Facebook group, and you have a really good following on YouTube as well. So kind of, how did you kind of transition from, being a complete hermit, not on social media at all, to, now actually being, almost like an influential person, almost an influencer on social media when it comes to the real estate space?
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Like I mentioned, I did not have any social media. Let me change that. I had LinkedIn because that's, the professional network. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I had LinkedIn. But other than that, I didn't have any social media. It wasn't my thing. I didn't see any purpose in it, none of that stuff. And then the weekend that I got my license and I passed my test, my wife, who is a digital marketing specialist, she's an influencer, things like that. She opened up every single social media platform and opened up an account for me. She was like, "Oh, you're gonna need this. You're gonna need this for your business." And I'm like, yeah, okay. I really didn't believe her. I'm like, I really don't want to do this social media crap. I just had the whole just negative, attitude about it. And like I said, she opened it up for me, and she started showing me how to use the different platforms and how to make posts. And she introduced me to Canva, the website. So I started learning how to do posts on there and so forth. And it's just eventually I started out with Facebook. She helped me grow my followers on there. Then I went to Instagram. She actually helped me grow my followers on there. And then I think that's pretty much about it. I don't really do Twitter that much. I don't have a TikTok account, but it's mostly just it's mostly Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Yeah, those are the main, and Pinterest. And Pinterest, I
Mm.
do Pinterest quite a bit on there. But yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
so has that been like a change in mindset as well, where you kind of like are now realizing more like the power of or influence of social media?
Yes, yes, it has been definitely a mindset shift. Um, not only do I know the power of social media as far as your business, but the thing I found that was I enjoyed about it is that I connected with friends that I went to high school with. People that I haven't seen in 15, 20 years, and to reach out to them, to connect with them, to say, hey, oh my God, we're in the same fraternity, or, hey, do you remember how we used to do this in high school? And, it's just keeping up with people, connecting with old family members, um, connecting with people like you, other influencers, you know what I mean? Like just people that you just would not ever meet that's like you in Texas, or I met a couple of people that are in Denver, Colorado. My wife has met. She met somebody that was over in Spain, I think, or something like that.
Oh,
So I mean, just being able to just network and meet people, meet interesting people, see interesting posts, see uplifting posts, and things like that. So I've gotten to like it a little bit more. I'm still not, like she is, because that's her thing, that's her job. But yeah, I do like it a little bit more, and I understand also the power that you can market your business for, and it really help your business grow because it allows you to reach people that you would never, you would never reach, you would never get into. Yeah,
right. Yeah, and I love what you said about, in the beginning, why you liked, you began to like social media is, actually connecting with old friends or family members as well. Because that's really, I don't know if people know this, but that's like the purpose of social media, right? That was the
yeah,
reason why I first got started in the
yeah,
first place, when,
right,
in that dorm room over in Harvard, right? Mark
right.
Zuckerberg. So and people kind of, nowadays have turned social media into something that it's almost not healthy anymore,
Right.
depending on the way that you use it. So when it comes to, using social media now for you, do you have a very strict kind of, no engagement, or do you have something where, you're only using it for intentional purposes instead of, having it, let it take over your life as well? And how can people kind of balance that? Because there's a really great power to social media, but there's also there's a lot of, a lot of bad things
Yeah,
happening on
darkness.
there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of darkness. You're
Yeah, a
right.
lot of darkness. Yeah, I'm very, very particular about using social media. Um, I try not to, or not try not. I don't let myself get sucked into being on there and just scrolling through stuff, for more than, I don't even know if I go more than 10 minutes, to be perfectly honest with you. Just because, like you said, you see a lot of positive stuff. And that's another thing that I did learn is that, um, you know, for me in the beginning, I was following pretty much everyone that was in real estate because, you want to connect with real estate agents. And I started also learning that a lot of real estate agents were not using social media for their real estate business. And so you end up, seeing a lot of dark stuff, coming from the real estate agents, unfortunately, or, you know, because you follow this real estate agent and they might have looked at, I don't know, whatever, then you end up getting what they looked at and you have no, you know what I mean? Like it's
Right.
just,
Yep. The
it's a crazy
algorithm.
algorithm and everything. So yeah, I'm real particular about it. I go in there, I do my business and everything, and I do scroll and try to keep up with my family, my cousins, again, friends from school or whatever, try to keep up with them, see what's going on in their life. I'll comment if I do a post and someone comments, I try to make sure that I reply to it. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. I try to post everything positive. I don't do too much of my personal life that much. At least really, really personal stuff like a health issue. I didn't post that much about that I went through. I flood with my son. I'm so in love with my son. It's just ridiculous. So my son and my wife, I do a lot of posts about them. Um, and then yeah, I'll go engage. I love sports, so I do something sports related, and I try to be always positive. If I come across a quote or a meme or a picture, on the internet or through my phone or whatever it is, if I see it as something valuable, I go ahead and share it as well. So yeah, I just try to be positive about it. I don't talk any trash. I definitely don't stay away from the politics. Um, because it's just, yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah,
No,
and
exactly. And that's the right way to use social media,
yeah,
because there's a right way and there's a wrong way.
yeah,
So I think you're using it the right way. But I mean, like for realtors, I mean, and I know everybody has a different opinion on this. Some people think it's they have a very strong opinion on one side. Very few have a stronger opinion on the other side. But is it a necessity, in your opinion, when it comes to running a business like in 2022 and going forward? Is social media a necessity, or more of a luxury?
necessity.
Necessity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do think there are certain businesses that you do, or certain careers rather, that you are that will rely on social media heavily. Like if you're in real estate, yeah, you need social media. a school counselor like myself also, I don't really need social media. You know, I n- I need social media more to keep up with the kids so I can understand them and what the heck they're talking about. The little slang term that they
Yeah.
use and they're like, what? And then you go on social media, you find out what it means and stuff. And so you can hear the conversations in the hallway. Oh, wait a minute. Come, let's go. Come over here. you
Yeah.
know, so stuff like that, I think, yeah, it's gonna be a necessity. It just depends on the career. Um,
Mhm.
I have a friend of mine who is a I'm sorry, he's a computer engineer, and the only social media account that he has is on LinkedIn. And very successful. He like how I was before I got my real estate license. Really didn't see much of a purpose for it. Like I said, he does LinkedIn, and that's really about it. I have
Yeah.
several friends who are like that, and then I also have other friends who are school counselors or deans, or they work in education, and they love Facebook, so they post about everything, all of their lives, or they do quotes, all the kind of stuff. So yeah, moving forward, I think certain careers, yeah, it's going to rely heavily on social media, heavily.
Yeah, and that kind of goes back to the point where it's like you're using it intentionally versus letting it take over your life.
Right.
Where, certain careers, or like running a business or being an entrepreneur, you need social media to go out there and create influence, attention to yourself,
Mhm.
marketing. But if you're just working a job and you enjoy it, right? You
Mhm.
don't necessarily need to be on there in terms of
Right.
just letting it consume your life, right? Like
Right.
again, like what you said, do something productive with your time instead of
Yeah.
scrolling through social media for an
Mhm.
hour on ends. And people will be very surprised at how much time they have in their life. So they just remove two things, right? We hear about it. We hear about it all the time. Two things. One is the television, and the other is social media scroll time. So
Yeah.
you'd be surprised how much time you actually get back. And everybody complains about not having enough time, but
Yeah.
they're just not. Everybody has the same 24 hours in a day,
Yep.
right? And just depends on how you use that time. That comes down to whether or not you're productive with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. So something else that and you can let me know if you're not really comfortable talking about this right now, or
Okay.
and we can kind of just skip this part, or however much you want to dig into it. But something you mentioned briefly, and I have a little bit more understanding than about is some health issues that you went
Mhm.
through as well, and that is a journey that I've also heard you talk a little bit more about on separate podcasts as well. So if you just don't mind, or however much you feel personally that you're willing to share, kind of go through that journey, and whatever you're comfortable sharing, because I do think it can be inspiring to a lot of people. And I do think a lot of lessons can be learned as well for our audience here. So just however much you want to share, however comfortable you are with it.
Sure. Um, I don't have a problem sharing it at all because I'm a very spiritual person. And so when this health scare first came about, I told God that if He got me through this, then I was going to make sure that every chance that I got, I would, give a testimony for somebody that out there that may be going through something else. And, e- everything's going to be okay. You can still live your life or whatever. You just, you may have some time and stuff like that where you may need to take a little bit more of a breather, but you'll get through it. So, that's my thing, to try to talk about it and inspire people. So basically what happened is that my son was born in 2018, actually April, so he's almost 4. And um, I guess like around July or August, I started getting a little bit of a headache. Not much of a concern. I thought it was because of stress. I'm a new parent. I'm not getting any sleep. I thought it was I'm not exercising, which is I'm a humongous advocate of that. I just love to exercise. I wasn't doing that. I wasn't eating right, so I thought it was just all that mixed in together. And the year went on, 2018 went on, and the headache started getting a tad bit worse. But again, me being hard headed, just not really paying it attention, thought the same thing that I thought, back in August or July when it first started. And the school I was at, we often do a turkey. drive. And as I was helping with the turkeys, they're extremely heavy, they're frozen turkeys. As I was straining, I started to realize, like, oh my God, this really, really hurts when I strain. And so that's when I got worried. Went to the doctor, I told her about it and everything. She told me to try to monitor it. And I think 2 or 3 weeks later, I went back and I was like, this is, yeah, I'm monitoring. I'm still having the same headache, blah, blah, blah. Ended up taking the MRI. She looked at it and she said that she sees something but didn't know exactly what it was. So went to a neurologist. He looked at the MRIs. Headaches are still getting worse. He doesn't know what it was, but he did say that um, my brain was getting pushed up against my skull. So he was like, "That's the one thing that we need to do. It's called Chiari malformation." And so it's basically you just kind of cut a little, hole in your skull so that your brain can kind of breathe, and that prevents the headaches, which it did. But he still didn't know what this little spot that he saw was. He didn't know what that was. And so while he was doing the surgery, he ended up doing a biopsy on that little spot, and it turned out to be a tumor, and it turned out to be cancerous. So I got diagnosed in 2019. Yeah, April 2019. I got diagnosed, and the tumor was so big and it was so kind of spread out that immediately he was just like, all right, we got to start 6 weeks of radiation and then we'll take it from there. I couldn't have surgery because of where the tumor was located. If I had surgery, I would have went back to a vegetative state, which, obviously that can't happen. So, and they wouldn't let that happen. But so he was like, we're gonna go into radiation. So I ended up doing radiation. I did not take well to radiation the first week. I lost 7 pounds. Um, I lost my speech. I lost my ability to write. Uh, I think that was it. And I lost my appetite. So that was the first week. After that, I started adapting to it. I guess maybe, the whole effect of, hey, you've never had radiation and now you're doing 45 minutes of it. That kind of just threw my brain off a little bit and my whole bodily function and so forth. But I started getting used to it a little bit more after that first week. My diet slowly came back. My speech slowly came back. I still have a little bit of a speech issue now, and my writing came back, which I still have a little bit of a writing issue. It's not as clear and legible as it used to be. But anyway, went through going through radiation, and around week 3 of 6 that I had to do, my church ended up doing a 5K gospel run, and I love to run. I've done half marathons. My next bucket list is to do a full marathon, hopefully next year, maybe. So I decided to jump into it. We'll see. Even if I have to walk, let's just go out there and do it. And me and my wife went out there and we did the whole 5K run. And I thought that was a humongous accomplishment for me for being in the middle of radiation, doing something like that. And so, again, praises to God, thanking Him for that. 3 weeks went through, and I got stronger and stronger every single week. And then I finally got done after 30 rounds of radiation. I got done like around the end of June, and I took a 2 months off, and then I went into uh, 6 sessions of chemotherapy, with each session being about a month long, 1 day a week. And so that was, kind of tough. But according to my nurse, they said I did better than what they thought I would be. And so because I felt good, I went back to work, be again school counselor, and then I started back doing real estate. And so that's one of the things that I mean by like time management, is that there were certain sessions of chemotherapy where I would be up there all day, 8 hours. And so instead of me just sitting in there in the chair with a needle in my arm, an IV and so forth, and looking at mindless TV, why not do some social media posts? Why not, reach out to this buyer? Why not to schedule this open house? Something like that. Um, and like I said, the chemotherapy was 1 day a week, so I was able to still do open houses on Saturday and Sunday. I was able to still do a couple of showings. So again, time management was key. And went through the chemotherapy. Everything was going well, and then the pandemic hit. So instead of 6, I ended up doing 5. They cut it short because the pandemic and everything, and my immune system was straight, really compromised. So they didn't want me coming into the hospital or anything like that. And ever since then, that was around that was in 2020. Ever since then, I've been having MRIs every 3 months, and the cancer's gone, so completely healed. God is good. Um, yeah, and so that's where we are right now. Right now, I'm still in the remission stage, so I go every 6 months right now to do the MRIs and see, to make sure that nothing has come back, make sure that nothing spread that they might have missed or whatever. And then, they check on me, see how I'm doing. I still have a little bit of side effects. My balance is not as good as it used to be. I still have minor headaches that last about 5 seconds at the most. And that's rare. That's maybe like one a day or something like that. And yeah, I lost a lot of weight during that whole process that I have not been able to gain it all back, which, I mean, that really doesn't mean anything. um but just, the side effects of it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, just yeah, I was able to go back to work. I did not work during radiation. I could not work during radiation. One, the radiation center was too far from my job, and then two, I was not physically able to go in there and work. So I took that whole 6 weeks off, but I was able to work the entire time I was on chemotherapy. Yeah,
Wow.
I was a little crazy because the chemotherapy uh, made my blood real thin and my immune system kind of low, and so I was extremely cold. I'm already a cold natured person. Like, I get cold real easily. This didn't help at all. I mean, I remember before we started school, I think it was my third chemo session that we had been in when we started school. And we had like a little back to school bash outside. It was hot. Everyone was in shirts, short sleeve, everything like that. And I'm in a hoodie with sweats on out there in the blistering sun, the sun beating down. But yeah, so yeah, that's my health scare.
Wow. I think that should be at least very inspiring to people to hear. Not just you being such a warrior and overcoming that the way that you did, but what you actually were doing during that time as well. Like some people, and to think, they don't even have the mental strength to go out there and accomplish certain things, living a very healthy life, or like not having any health scares, nothing wrong with them. They just don't have the mental strength or capacity to go out there and do anything productive. Well, you were just saying you're sitting in chemotherapy and still posting on social media, reaching out to buyers and clients.
Mhm.
And just for people to even think about that, like, I mean, really kind of consider where, if you're still complaining about, your life right now, you're complaining about, oh, I don't have the mental strength, that, the motivation to do this or do that. I mean, really, there's no excuses, right? Because Cornelius, I don't know if you would say this or not, about yourself, but there's not anything different about you versus everybody else, right?
Right.
And I mean, anybody can kind of accomplish the things that oh, and overcome the challenges that you have,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You definitely can. It just like you again, mind shift. Going into chemotherapy and having a positive attitude. One thing that my nurse told me that uh, uh, set me apart from a lot of the other patients is that whenever I had a session, I always came in with a big smile. I greeted people. I knew not only my personal nurse for my chemotherapy, but anytime that she was out, she would bring someone in. I knew that person, or I got to know that person rather, and just had a positive attitude, joking around. If I had to go to the restroom or go to the water fountain and I passed a couple of rooms, if I saw some person, hey, how you doing? Just kind of live and trying to live people up. And just, I don't know, I feel like the more you smile, the more you be kind, the more you have a positive outlook on things, you feel better about yourself, and it actually does make a difference. It really does, you know. So yeah, that was one lesson that I did learn from it, is that I always have tried to been a positive person, but going through that and just having a positive mindset, I honestly feel like that helped me a lot get through, some of those dark times where, I was like, why is this happening to me? I'm the, I'm probably the most healthiest person anybody knows. I try to eat well. I don't smoke. I don't do drugs. I exercise a lot. And so for me to just get this out of nowhere, and on top of that, the type of tumor that I had, or yeah, that I had, is a rare tumor in adults. The tumor that I had is mostly found in children under the age of 12. So explain how a 40-year-old man, a 39-year-old man gets a tumor like that. But again, you have to look at the bright side of it. My spirituality helps a lot. So, I had my little breakdown when I first got diagnosed, but then after that I was like, all right, God, you're going to get me through this. Let's go. Let's get it. And again, the mindset, just knowing that you're going to beat it, knowing that you're going to get through it. You can do it. Anybody that's
Wow.
going through something, you can do it. Don't let it stop you.
Yeah, I love that you said that. I think it's super important. And what you said about being positive, right? In this situation where most people would just, sort of cowl under a cloud of darkness, you actually went out and brightened not just your own day, but, other people's day as well. Because I'm
Yeah.
sure, not a lot of people in the hospital are celebrating it,
Right.
celebrating like an occasion or, being on, the high of life or whatever. But you being out there, I'm sure you've maybe you've even gotten feedback from other people, but I'm sure you've made a lot of people's days, actually touched a lot of lives that in the same process, and kind of helped you as well. Is that something that you kind of realized, that not just like not just staying productive during that, but also going out there and sort of giving to other people and serving others from your heart? Is that something that you touched on a little bit, but did you feel that that was kind of helping you through that every single day and actually helping you take control of your emotions and not letting the environment dictate things?
Yeah, so that was probably the first time that I actually realized that me helping people makes me feel good as well. I've always had a service attitude. Um, Ironically, all of my jobs have been in the line of service. um, but yeah, I love volunteering at food pantries. My fraternity does a Thanksgiving where we feed the homeless, and I was involved in that when I was up in Chicago a lot. Um Food banks. A guy that I worked with used to go and deliver socks, sandwiches, whatever it is, like once a month. I've always wanted to be a part of that, and I have been a part of it in some instances. Um, but it made me feel well, but I never really like paid it attention. This time I actually paid it attention. Like if I found myself waving hi to somebody, or being nice to the receptionist or something like that, and hey, Mr. Camp, how you doing? And hey, how you doing? It's a great day. Even though it's snowing outside, it's still going to be a wonderful day. Even though it's -5, it's still going to be a wonderful day. And so just doing that, I took notice that it made me feel a lot better. And so I've actually started doing that a lot more. My wife got on me, got onto me about an email that I had sent, and I wanted her to proofread or whatnot. But she talked about how my customer service or my verbiage could have been a lot more nicer. I tend to be kind of blunt and straightforward to whoever I'm sending the email to. So she got on to me about a couple of emails that I sent. And ever since then, which was about probably a year and a half, 2 years ago, I found myself trying to be a little bit more nice, uh, be a little bit more kind, ask about how the person is doing, wishing them well, trying to be a happy face. I'm trying to do a happy smile in there, just trying to like relay energy through that particular email, or through my conversation with someone. When I go running, I say how you doing to whoever I'm passing. Just things like that that I've noticed has increased ever since I was diagnosed and I went through that, period in my life. So,
Yeah.
and also I'm pretty sure you know who he is, Kobe Gary V. He's always talking about kindness, always. And my wife again introduced me to who he was because I didn't know anything about him, but now I follow him, and again, I love his mindset where he talks about kindness. And actually, I have that in my email signature. Kindness always wins, whether in business or in life. So if you be kind to
Yeah.
somebody, you're always winning.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
love that. And I'm a big believer in that as well. And I got it from a different kind of influencer. I don't know if you heard of Bob Proctor, but
Who?
Bob Proctor always talks about the impression of increase, giving
Oh,
people the
okay.
impression of increase. Whenever you meet somebody or come across someone, that's exactly, what I thought of when you were telling your story here, is that every time you come across somebody, you give them the impression of increase, right? You're
Hmm.
letting them feel a little bit better about their day. Maybe, a smile here
Yep.
and there, or how are you doing? How, hope you're having a nice day. That
Yep.
can really turn somebody's day around, right? They could be
Hmm.
having the worst day, in that, their morning's not right. They woke up late. Their, coffee's not brewing or whatever. They missed
Right.
the train, missed the bus.
Right.
But you just being there, even as a certain, like maybe as a stranger on the street or in the grocery store, just giving them a smile and saying how you doing, that
Yep.
could really change somebody's
Yeah.
day, or at least give them a bright spot
Yeah.
during their day that they might be struggling with,
Yeah.
that can help them change, the rest of their day for the better. So
Yeah.
I think that's something
Nowadays,
super
like,
important.
I feel like nowadays people are so on edge about a lot of things that you almost can't afford to be anything but nice, because you never know what that person is going through. And so if you do something, whether it be honking a horn, or whether it be you just kind of looked at them but you didn't smile, like what you looking at, or I don't know what's something else that you can do, but it just might set that person off, and you never know how that person is going to react. Like I was where was this at? This was, I forgot. It was a story on LinkedIn, and I try to be quick with it. A story that was on LinkedIn, a post. A guy was driving, and he was being tailed by someone, and he didn't do anything. He just kind of just was driving at his speed. He didn't slow down. He didn't pump the brakes or anything like that. He didn't flip the guy a finger or nothing. After like 5 or 10 minutes, I think he said, he decided to pull over. The guy goes to pass him, and as he passes him, he just pulls out a gun and was almost about to shoot him. He didn't do anything wrong. He's driving the speed limit, but because he's driving, slow, in the other person's eyes, he decides to go and pull a gun out. Like, you just never know what people are going through and what's gonna set them off. So, yeah, I just try to be kind to every. Yeah, I know that's the same thought. Yeah, your facial expression is the same thing that I had. I was like, whoa, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, is that something that you kind of realize when you're, kind of, I don't know if you've ever like not been this way, because it seemed like you always have, and maybe just because I've, the time that I've known you, that's just the person you've been. Maybe like when you were younger, it was like a different story, and you have to learn that. But why is it, do you think, that people are so on edge, and do you think that you being nice and you actually giving of service, does that make a difference in your own life, not just like in other people, but is that what actually separates it? Is that what gets people off of edge?
Yeah.
Is off of edge, but is that you being of service to somebody else, does that really actually help?
I believe that it does. Yeah, I really believe that it does. Um, like I said, I've noticed, like, I've always been like this, always been willing to serve people, always been willing to help someone out, always been willing to, do whatever. But like I said, I noticed this during the my chemotherapy sessions. And ever since then, I've been a firm believer that if you just be nice to somebody, you can automatically make yourself feel better about what you're going through. You know what I mean? Like, like that's one of the things that I've noticed about being a school counselor. In Chicago, I was a school counselor in middle school, so I really didn't deal with much. The kids that kind of like not really knowing, they don't understand what anxiety is. They don't understand what it is to feel anxious. Some of them do, but most of them don't. But now that I'm in high school, that's the main thing that I deal with as far as the kids, um, being anxious about being in school, because these kids have had 2 years and they're on a computer. They're not in the school building, and so they get anxious about going back into the school building. They get anxious about what's going on at home, and their parents might be going through something, then they're taking it out on their kids. Their parents might not be able to get a job. Their parents might have lost their house. One student that I was talking to, their mom was renting a house, and the landlord sold the house. The new landlord, you know cut the lease, so now this kid is homeless. you know and it's just, everyone is anxious about everything. And so again, you never know what's going on with people. So keep the peace, keep strife out of your life, be kind to someone, because there's always someone that's doing better than you, but then there's always someone that's doing a lot worse than you are. And so that's really what I feel like life it should be about, is to pick people up. You don't have to hand feed them or anything like that, but pick them up, give them a little help. Like I mentioned earlier in the podcast, you can't make it through this world without help. You can't. I refuse to believe that.
Yeah.
No matter how hard you work, no matter, how, you say you came from the slums, you projects, whatever, you had to have some help, some way and somehow from somebody. So yeah.
Wow, I really do think that's such an important part of the human experience.
Yeah.
Really, just being alive, and not just getting help, but also like what you're doing now, paying it forward to other
Hmm.
people as well. And that's you earn so you can learn, so you can return. Essentially, that's
Yep.
something that I've heard in the past.
I like
But
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I like it too. So
Yeah,
you
learn so
always,
you
I
can
think.
return.
Yep, I think you always want to pay it forward. So
Right.
that's something. And just one last thing that I think, because of the position that you're in as a high school counselor or a school counselor, and because I kind of just came out of that world, so I know a little bit about what's going on, maybe a little bit more in touch than people who not have been in high school for like 10, 20, 50, 40 years.
Right.
So I think you're exactly right on that. A lot of high school students, and maybe even now, I'm not sure on this. It might even be earlier, where they have a lot of anxiety, and it's strong, and it really it shouldn't be that strong. That level of anxiety within teenagers, high school kids, now even maybe middle school kids.
Yeah.
So when it comes to you helping the kids in your school, and what is exactly your strategy when it comes to, or not strategy, but like how are you able to kind of help them deal with that, or what's the best way for somebody who's younger, or somebody who might have kids who are in that age, who have these anxieties, and how do you cope with that and deal with that, and actually not necessarily completely eliminate it from their lives, but like how do you deal and cope with that, and how are you helping the kids that you're working with cope and deal with that as well? Because I think that maybe it's because I come from I'm younger, so I just came out of that world, but I think that's a really important part of some issues, a really important issue that I'm seeing.
Yeah. Um, the one thing that I have found to be most effective when talking with kids is to, one, have an open mindset of, just being open, giving empathy to them, and then also believing in them, like speaking affirmations to them, throughout the whole conversation, and definitely before you leave them. Sometimes a lot of my kids, they just want a listening ear, because they don't get that at home, unfortunately. um, they don't necessarily want advice, but they want a little bit of guidance, because a lot of kids, when they get into high school, they start feeling that sense of independency, so they want to keep that. And so That's where, just a little bit of guidance towards them. And then the last thing is that um, you just believing in them. Telling this young lady who says that I want to work in a factory. Why do you want to work in a factory? Because that's all. That's all I want to do. That's all I can do. Whoa, 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 whoa. That's all you can do? No, no, no. I've seen you do hair. You have told me that you do hair for a lot of your friends. So why don't you go into that business? They don't know, you know, what the possibilities are out there, and they don't have anyone to tell them that, hey, you can own your own hair salon. You can have a YouTube channel with, over 100,000 followers and make money off YouTube. You can become a computer engineer. You can become a veterinarian. You can become a sports player. You know, you can go to college. Well, I can't afford the college. Well, this is what we're going to do. Okay. You don't have to worry about affording it. This is the route you're going to take, and I'm going to help you do it. And I don't know, it's just the kids that when you say stuff to them, you can just see like their face kind of light up, almost like, wow, nobody ever told me that. Or, wow, I didn't know that I could do this route and still end up in college. Or, really, do you think that I could be successful, even though I might have gotten held back in 10th grade, or I might have gotten held back in the 6th grade, something like that. Just those are the things that I've found out to be the most effective, is having an open mind to whatever the person has to talk about, showing the empathy towards them, and then speaking affirmations over them as well. Like we talked about earlier, social media is so, it can be so dark when you don't use it for the purpose, and teenagers don't use it for the purpose, the intent. And so you get a whole lot of anger, people talking about the other person on social media, um, people posting pictures on social media and this person seeing it. Or um, I deal with a lot of people body shame, being body shame on social media, having to deal with, I don't look like her, or I don't look like him. And, my, it's just, yeah, it's just social media, it has a dark space. And so that creates a whole lot of anxiety, a lot of anxiety. Most of the fights that I deal with at my school are over social media, back and forth. It's nothing to do with school. Nothing to do with, you bump me in the hallway or anything like that. Is what this person said on social media or in the DMs or whatever that, they want to call it. It's just, it goes, yeah, yeah. So back to what I was saying, having an open mind and speaking affirmations, positive affirmations over them, can go a long way with the student. Not to say that it works all the time, but it goes a long way with the student. And they might not be receptive now, but eventually they'll remember. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's so true when it comes to how the mind works, right? The conscious mind, subconscious mind, and with the affirmations and the repetition of it, you might not realize it consciously, but it's imprinted in their subconscious mind that they're able to essentially become that person, because that's really what controls how we work and how we take actions, right? What
Yep.
actions that we actually take. But I mean, I love that we're kind of expanding on this, and I don't want to keep you for too long because I know
No, you
it's a little
good,
bit
man.
later
Yeah.
for you on the East Coast here right now at the time we're recording. But do you think just kids or teenagers, they put too much pressure on themselves? Because is that,
Yeah.
do you think that's,
Yes. Yep.
yeah,
I think that they put too much pressure on themselves, and they also get too much pressure put on them. Um, you know, there was one kid that I had up in Chicago, and he was in the 7th grade, I think, and he had gotten held back some year before 7th grade. But in 7th grade, instead of him having a wonderful, you know, fun, playing around with his friends type childhood growing up, playing kickball and so forth, he got to go home and take care of his 1, 2, 3, 4 brothers and sisters that he had, because the mom and the dad, wasn't at home or was out doing something. They weren't working. They weren't working two or three jobs to try to keep, they was out doing other stuff that you ain't supposed to be doing. You're supposed to be at home taking care of your kids. That's when I feel like responsibility and anxiety gets put on them. As far as kids bringing the anxiety to themselves, yeah, that comes from social media. I honestly believe that. I honestly believe that that dark side of social media causes a lot of anxiety on today's youth. Yep.
Yeah, I
Yep.
think so as well. I mean, I kind of came from that world, so I've seen
Hmm.
it, I've experienced it as well. So I'm really glad that I'm kind of out of it now.
Yeah.
And it's almost like such a weird experience where I felt so much more stressed when I was like in school, and the stakes are supposedly lower. Or now, like I'm kind of like in the real world, I'm dealing with like real
Right.
people and their families and whatever,
Right.
running a team of agents, and
Right.
stakes are supposed to be higher, but I'm a lot more relaxed. I'm a lot more comfortable, and not as much anxiety, which is it's kind of weird to think
Right.
about, but it's just kind of the state, like you said, the social media and
Hmm.
putting pressure, and the peer pressure. Some of it
Yeah.
comes from that as well. But yeah, no, I think I would definitely love to kind of expand more on this, but I don't want to take up too much of your time and too much of the audience's time. So I think what we will do is that I'd love to have you back on the show sometime and just
Sure.
expand on this because of your background and experience, because it's something I talk a lot about with my family as well, and
Hmm.
just the friends that I know and people that are in my circle as well. So
Sure.
I think it's an important topic to talk about, and I'm sure you agree with this
Yep.
because that's where the foundation is set for the rest of their life. And you see
Yeah.
people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, not happy, not content. Well, a lot of it started when you were, like you say, like in the seventh grade,
Yep.
high school,
Yeah.
and that's where it led. So yeah. So for those people that out there listening to this podcast, um, that want to reach out to you, Cornelius, whether if it's to look at your social media. I know we didn't touch too much on it, but you have an awesome YouTube channel for new agents. I think everybody should look at it, especially if you're starting or if you're a part-time agent. What's the best ways to reach you? And I'll leave your information in the show notes below. But just for people listening, what's the best ways to reach you, and how can people find you online?
Okay, cool. So first and foremost, my YouTube channel you can always check out, especially if you're a new agent. Um, you can always check out tips there. I'll have a couple videos that will help you, like I mentioned earlier, help you find success as a part-time agent, and especially if you're starting out. Kind of, my videos kind of guide you to some through some things as far as what to do with your business, how to market yourself. We talked about getting a mentor, things like that. So I have a couple videos about that. But the YouTube channel is Clueless Realtor. All you have to do is go to YouTube, search Clueless Realtor, and then you can see the videos that I've made. Um, as far as Facebook is concerned, you want to look up CC Realty, the number two. That's my Facebook. Cornelius Camp is my LinkedIn. And on Instagram, you can find me at Clueless Realtor on Instagram, or you can also find me at CC Realty. I'm sorry. Yeah, no, C Camp Realty. Sorry, C Camp 2. Sorry about that. C Camp 2 on Instagram. Yeah, and CC, if you're an agent, you can join my Facebook group, Everything Real Estate, as well.
Yep, awesome, and no worries about the mishap there. I'll put the information in the show notes
I
below.
appreciate it.
Whether if you're listening to this on an audio platform, Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, wherever you might be listening to this, or watching the video on YouTube
Nice.
as well. Give it a like, share it, subscribe it. If you got any questions, any comments for Cornelius, obviously leave it down in the comments below. Make sure you're sharing this, because this is a lot of good information, in my opinion. For if you know somebody that
Thank
can
you.
really benefit from this, make sure you share this with them. You can, like Cornelius we're just talking about, make somebody's day and come from a position of service so that you actually feel more fulfilled in your life as well. Make sure to turn on your notifications for your future episodes. But once again, thank you so much, Cornelius, for
Not a
taking
problem,
time
man.
out of your busy schedule to share your story. Like I was mentioning before. really important stuff, I think can change and help a lot of people
For
as well.
sure.
So really
For
thank you.
sure.
Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
no problem, man. The pleasure is mine. I really enjoyed it. Like I said, helping out a friend, helping to, help him start his business, his podcast business, and,
Thank you.
hopefully it can grow and be successful. Yep. And anytime, you want me back, I'll be more than happy. More than happy to come back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I think I definitely will because there's a wealth of knowledge there in that, in you. So, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. If you're still listening, make sure to turn that notifications on for the next episode, and for any future news or updates as well. But thank you guys so much for tuning in here today. We'll be back again shortly for the next episode with another special guest for you guys. But thank you again for listening and tuning in.
All right. See you guys.